Hey, 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 welcome. It's now no longer the weekly wrap up. We are trading crypto this week. And thank you for joining us. So this week we've had lots of nice movement, which is awesome in the crypto market. So we like seeing that. We like seeing the happy faces on X, and we want that to continue. So we are going to have a look at a lot of what is going on in the market and where we're going to next. So if you're watching this on X or YouTube, make sure you smash the like button, leave me a comment, and that way it reaches more people. Algorithm understands it and it goes, these people like Lisa telling them about crypto. And then it goes, we'll share it around. So if you're watching this, make sure you smash that button right now and give me a like. So yeah, let's jump straight into it. So and of course, the weekly wrap up is brought to you by WeX. Now you can head to gettingstartedincrypto.com, click on the free scalp signals button right here, and you fill out this form and you can get started with us for no cost. All you need to do is deposit $1,000 to WeX and you are off. Just do a few trades a month and that maintains your subscription with us for free. So get onto that. There's no hidden charges. There's nothing. So it's really awesome that WeX are doing that for us, especially when the market is so bad at the moment. So let's jump straight in to, I'm going to bring up the oil chart because this is a very important chart for not just crypto, but the market as a whole. I've spoken about this chart numerous times over the past few years, but it's at a very pivotal point where we've got an Elliott wave directional pivot that we are sitting on right now. So, and this makes a lot of sense to what happened in Venezuela. Now, if you are on X, I've got a post on there just explaining my thoughts on that. This has nothing to do with the people. I'm not condoning anything that happened. I'm purely looking at a chart because I've had a few people sort of question that, and it's like, this has nothing to do, like my opinion on what happened has nothing to do with this chart. So you don't need to know my opinion on that. It's like, you know, there's so many dictators in this world that taking one out is not going to change a lot. So let's have a look at the oil chart because this is really important. Now, we're on this directional pivot. So likely oil is going to see a bounce at some point soon. This pattern is almost finished, which means when oil goes up, the rest of the market pulls down normally. That's kind of what happens. They move kind of inversely. It means that, you know, things are getting more expensive. So the market recalibrates at that point. Potentially there's a bounce coming on oil soon, which lets us know where the market is as a whole, whether it breaks through and we go to that 3, which is heading up to this point. At this point, we've got some sort of global war happening. That's kind of when we saw the oil restricted within the Gulf. That was a possibility. So if China and Russia step in because they were there trying to seal the deal with the oil. So there's a big thing. You would have seen a lot of my comments around BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and I remember with Saudi Arabia, I think. And so those countries, South Africa might be, those countries are all involved with trying to de-dollarize the USA. So essentially, every so often money changes. We went from the UK pound being the standard to the US dollar being the standard. Now BRICS want that to change. So they want something else, whether they create their own currency at that point or whether it becomes, the Russian money or whatever it is. But at this moment in time, the global currency is the US dollar. So, and this is why this is so important, because oil controls that narrative. So when we don't see, a war or news of a war or a shortage in oil, then price goes up. So opposite, price goes down. When there's a shortage, price goes up. So Venezuela is the biggest oil, like natural deposit of oil in the world that we know of. So there could be lots of other oils somewhere else, but we don't know of that yet. But Venezuela is that place at the moment. So, and them trying to avoid the sanctions that the US have put in place and sell outside to Russia, China, and other regions causes major problems. So that's what that takedown was, in my opinion. So I believe this is an economic war. I've spoken about that for a long time. That's with Trump putting in trade sanctions, with him putting in so many sanctions in how the USA conducts their business, how people interact with them, and this is continuing. So this is just another little piece of the puzzle that we continue to watch. So this, I watch this. I watch another chart which I'll bring up now called the VIX. So when the VIX gets very volatile, now if you want to know how this works, head to my trading view and you will see like how that essentially works. But we can see all the major crashes that we've seen when Trump introduced the tariffs. We had a major crash within the market. So this was April 25 where we saw that crash. And, that's when we thought all the markets have maybe topped out. And then it all came back. And, we were looking at oil at that point, and that's why that was such a pivotal move. So if you go to my X and you have a look at that oil chart, I retweeted the previous oil chart from around this period that explains why that was such a big issue at that time. So now we're at that same pivotal point where we've got to this bottom. You'll see on the chart that I've marked this region, that this yellow line has been there at 55 since that period. So we're there now. Venezuela happens. Not a coincidence that it matches the chart. They often do. And so now we go, okay, if they restrict that oil, price goes up. If they don't restrict that oil, and more oil comes into the market, price goes down. So either way, I think at this point we might get a small bounce up on oil. There's a potential move that can happen within that range. We just don't want it to be breaking out above this downtrend channel at the moment, because that will kill like everything in the market at the moment. So it will kill stocks, it will kill crypto, it will basically kill everything. So we don't want that. But the chart to watch, if that's going to happen, is the VIX. And currently it's doing higher lows. So it's at the point where it's neither here nor there. It still looks like it's correcting, so it doesn't look like it's about to break out, especially on the monthly. When we drop this down, I'll drop it down to a weekly. We're still, quite bearish on this chart. So while we might have a smallish bounce over the next couple of months on the VIX, this is a really slow moving chart. We are still looking incredibly bearish. So that suits the narrative of the longer term sort of 2026 being a more bullish year and heading higher. So with that said, it's also the 250th anniversary of American independence. So Trump's not going to want that to be remembered as the worst stock market in history. It's just not something that logically makes sense. So when we're looking at sort of like what's happening beyond crypto, we have to think outside of the box a little bit and go, well, what does this mean? What's going on with this, and what are the the policies behind all of this? Why are China and Russia in Venezuela, and all of a sudden Trump kidnaps or whatever he did, arrests their leader and the wife, and then all of a sudden oil prices are, at that same low. So yeah, I just think have a dig and find out what's going on there, because BRICS and de-dollarization is a huge thing that could affect the markets in the next few years and could be like a war that really affects everything globally. When you sort of look to patterns and that sort of stuff, when we're looking at these charts, that doesn't look like that happens until around 2028. So we probably got a couple more years of the back and forth of all of this happening. So but just do keep an eye on this chart. So this is the crude oil chart, WTI, and it's a really important chart to watch. So with that said, let's jump into Bitcoin, because we've had some nice moves this week, but we may not be out of the woods yet, as I've told you. So this is the daily chart. We've had a break on across on the 9 and the 21. So this is a positive. So when we're looking at sort of trading and scalping and we're looking at indicators, we're going, okay, this is a positive move. So if you followed my YouTube for a little while, a few years ago, I did a scalp trading like the pros, and this kind of works on any time frame. So for, shorter term scalps, when BTC is doing its sideways thing, you can head and you can use the 9 and 21 EMAs with the 100 and 200 MAs. And I kind of explain how that works and how it moves in the market. So we've had this cross here on the 9 and the 21. We've come up, we've got a resistance at this point. We've broken out, retested that, and then continued up. So we're now at the medium point and a pivot. If you're in getting started in crypto, you would have known that this morning that it was heading to that range. And yeah, so that's 93,269. The next pivot and the channel resistance, which is also the 100 MA. So if you check out that scalping strategy on YouTube, you will know that it's a very important region. And that's at 98,915. Because we've pierced this pivot, I do believe we're going to see that channel resistance. We may get another pullback to this in this region. So if we drop that down to a lower time frame, we can see that, there's a potential there that we might retest this region. I doubt it though, because we've got quite a big sideways on the 1 hour here, just going test. So it's kind of sitting there nicely. It was also finding the support of the 21 EMA. So on this hourly chart, we can see that we've got the stock RSI is about to cross over. So that does mean that we're going to get another retest of that pivot. So you could comfortably, once that crosses, comfortably enter, and you will likely get a small scalp. So that's kind of where BTC is at the moment. When we go to the larger time frame, so this is the weekly chart, we've still got this region here. Now on the weekly, we're holding the 100 MA, which is a really strong region to be holding. And we've got overhead resistance. We're just at the 9 EMA on this chart, and the 21 EMA is just above. And then we've got the 50 SMA. So there's a lot of, levels to be getting through before we get, to where we need to be. So basically in this region, we want to hit the sort of the between, 102 to maybe 104, ideally. When we go back to this chart where my pivots are a little bit higher, so 106 to 108, I've got some pivots sitting here, and that's breaking above this resistance here. So we've got a diagonal resistance. When I put this, I'm going to put this out to a 12-hour chart. You can see that resistance, that orange one, comes all the way back down. We've got down right from like where we've got these wave ones. So we've got here, came back down, retested. This is Jan 22nd, broke down at that point, became a resistance here. And then we've got a support, breakthrough support. We want to continue this region being support. So that continues us moving higher within this pattern. So we do have a lot of room here to be moving. We've crossed above on the 12-hour chart. We're above the 100. So we can see how the indicators line up when you go down the levels, and you can sort of see where we're going to get pullbacks at those places. The 200 SMA is sitting at the channel resistance at that point. When we go to the daily, that drops down to the 100. So you can see how those indicators work. So there we go. And then the 200 is a little bit higher when we go on to the daily. So they just keep spanning out. So that's a really good way of understanding how much strength any coin has within the market. So yeah. And thank you for Robert Walker for smashing the button. So like I said at the beginning, there's lots of you watching, and smash the button, smash the like button, so this gets out to more people. And Nashbar, thank you. And I don't have an accent. I don't know what you're talking about. Everyone keeps saying I've got an accent, but I don't. So next up, we've got USDT. Now, this is a chart that we are waiting to break down. So we've just, this is the daily. We've had a cross on the 9 and the 21. So when you're shorting, not that you're going to short you could short USDT, but this is the dominance chart. This works exactly the same way as what I was saying on the long charts, like I was saying on BTC. So we've crossed down here on the daily, on the 9 and the 21. The 100 MA is below, so that normally acts like a magnet. It's coming down to that region. We want it to break down below 5.73. That means we're in a bearish pattern. We would probably get a bounce at that point because that's 100 MA. That's normally what happens. And then potentially we want it to continue lower, because the lower this chart gets, the higher the crypto market gets as a whole. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, alts, that sort of thing, we start running because people are buying crypto instead of holding their USDT. So that's what that means. The DXY has had a little bit of a bounce. It is under the 100 MA. It's logical that it's had a bounce after what's just happened with Venezuela. So head back to the oil chart if you missed that at the beginning. But this is still likely going down. We don't want it to be, this is a monthly chart, we don't want it to be breaking that region. When we do drop it down to, I'll drop it down to the 2 weekly, you can see that the 200 MA is just above. So that's kind of the region it might get to, around 99.29, and then it will likely reject at that point, coming back down. So once you know how to use the EMAs and the MAs, it will change your game. A lot of the indicators that you see bigger traders using are built on these, and you pay lots of money for it, when you can just learn how to use them yourself and work that out. And you can set trading view alerts by just sort of clicking on this, and when the price touches, you can add that indicator alert on there and create your own strategies. So really, really super good way to, get alerts, trade, even just scalp trading. So make sure, I'm gonna link you guys back to YouTube and go and have a look at that scalp trading like a pro. I've put it on X today as well, or yesterday, I can't remember, but check that out, because it will help all the people that are fairly new around here just to make a little bit of money. And it's super easy. Or else, if you don't want to do it yourself, come in and join Getting Started in Crypto with the free signals. So that's all you have to do. And we've made huge profits again last month. So BTC dominance is on support. It will likely have a bounce very soon. We can see that we're at those regions where it needs to have a bounce, and we ideally want it to get up and retest that 101 at least, and BTC dominance should start to rise at that point. It's on a very neutral level on all of the indicators, so it's not giving us sort of any information at that point. The total is at the resistance, so that's another point that we need to break through and continue through. We're still filling out this diamond. We could come back down and have a couple more goes in this region, and that would just keep Bitcoin circling sideways until we do get a breakout. So that's not outside of the realm of possibility that this was a really short-term bounce, depending on where we break to. At the moment, we do need to watch the total. We do need to watch the total 2 and the total 3, all in similar positions, just about to break out. So we're not far away from that happening, but we're not quite there yet either. So for Ethereum, it's just broken one of the pivots. It's this is the daily, so it's above the 50 SMA, 9 and 21 EMAs, and they've had a cross in this region. So that is a fairly bullish chart in my eyes. It does show on the stock here on the daily that it is going to have a pullback. So that's probably just to test these indicators. So indicators normally get tested. If they break down lower, that means we're still in a bearish sideways pattern. So we just need to sort of understand where we are. Short term, a minor pullback, I think, and then a continuation up. Same for ETH. We're still got overhead SMAs 100 and 200 at this point. And ETH, I think, is going to have a bit of a bounce very soon, because the BTC ETH chart is showing that it's on support. So if this breaks down, BTC is obviously gaining strength. We don't want this one to break down, because then the ETH, like USDT pair, will likely come down a bit further. So, but so far so good. We are looking quite sort of bullish, temporary bullish at the moment, until those next pivots do confirm. So with alts, very similar stuff happening, and we are at a lot of the resistance in those regions. I posted a few charts. They are coming up to resistance at the moment on the daily. So I do anticipate that we'll get an early pullback this week before a continuation. So don't get all overly bullish in this place here. Wait for that small pullback and then long again. So I'm not going to cover alts because they are all sitting at the resistances again. And if you are getting started in crypto, we have been making money. So lots of charts have been going out there. And of course, if you're on X, you can always ask me to have a look at a chart for you as well. If I've got time, I will do that, of course. So thank you again for joining me. And I will be here next week. And of course, you will see me on X, not on Instagram at the moment, unless they unblock me. Their AI has banned me for saying crypto too much. I'm on TikTok, YouTube, some blue, yeah, the one with the butterfly, and trying to think where else I am. Oh, Threads. So I will see you on all of those and catch you here next week. Thank you for joining. Bye.